At first glance, the Bayfield 32 looks less like a fiberglass production boat from the 1980s and more like somebody shrank a traditional sailing ship until it would fit in a normal marina slip. It has a clipper bow, a bowsprit, carved wooden trail boards, a sweeping sheer, and enough exterior teak to make its intentions very clear. This was not designed to look modern, and it was clearly not designed to win Wednesday night races. But this little Canadian cruiser has crossed the Atlantic, explored the Caribbean, and spent decades carrying families around the Great Lakes. Today, we're touring a Bayfield 32 and finding out what this unusual old cruiser still has going for it that deserves a place on your shopping list. The Bayfield 32 was built in Ontario, Canada by Bayfield Boat Yard, a company founded by designer and boat builder Ted Gozzard. And that might sound familiar. This is the early 70s. The yard was originally located near the village of Bayfield on Lake Huron, before eventually moving to a larger facility in nearby Clinton, Ontario. At the time, the sailboat market was moving rapidly toward these fin keel racer cruisers, think C&C. Builders were producing lighter boats with sleeker lines, shorter keels, and increasingly modern interiors. Bayfield deliberately went in the other direction. Gozzard was heavily influenced by the traditional designs of Herreshoff. His boats used long keels and clipper bows and bowsprits, carved woodwork, and generous shear lines. But Gozzard was not simply building replicas of old Herreshoff yachts. These were fiberglass production boats with more beam, more freeboard, and considerably more interior volume than many genuinely traditional designs would be. The result was a boat that looked old-fashioned but was intended to be practical for modern-day cruising. The design was introduced in 1973 as the Bayfield 30. According to Gozzard, it was really a 30-foot boat, but American dealers wanted to measure all the way to the end of the clipper bow and the bowsprit, which brought the overall length to about 32 feet. The longer name apparently sounded better in the showroom too, and the Bayfield 30 eventually became widely known as the Bayfield 32. More than 300 were built during a production run lasting well over a decade, making it one of the company's most successful models. Ted Gozzard sold his interest in his company Bayfield in 1981 and established Gozzard Yachts in Goderich, Ontario. Bayfield Boat Yard continued operating without him, producing several different cruising boats until a fire destroyed the factory in the late 80s. The company never successfully returned to production. That means every Bayfield is now at least several decades old, but it also means that these boats represent an interesting period in Canadian boat building. Canada was producing a tremendous number of sailboats during the 70s and 80s, but most of them followed that racer cruiser formula. This Bayfield really stood apart. The Bayfield 32 measures 32 feet overall, but its waterline is only 23. It has a beam of 10 foot 6, displaces just shy of 10,000 pounds, and carries about 4,000 pounds of internal lead ballast. Draft is only 3 feet 9 inches. That shallow draft is one of the boat's most useful characteristics. It gives owners access to anchorages and canals and cruising grounds that are unavailable to many other boats of this size. That makes the Bayfield particularly appealing for places such as the Bahamas or the Chesapeake, the Intercoastal Waterway, and shallower areas on the Great Lakes. Under the water, the boat has a long keel with the rudder mounted behind it. That arrangement provides directional stability, protects that rudder and the propeller, and helps the boat track steadily once it's up and moving. It can also make the Bayfield more forgiving during a grounding than a modern boat with a deep fin and an exposed spade rudder. The hull was built from solid fiberglass using a fairly substantial layup of matte and woven roving. The deck was fiberglass over balsa-cored, with plywood reportedly used in some higher load areas. The hull and deck joint was mechanically fastened, and the ballast was encapsulated inside the keel rather than bolted externally to the hull. These boats had developed a reputation for being solidly constructed, but solidly constructed doesn't mean maintenance-free. This is now an old fiberglass boat, and every example needs to be judged on its present condition rather than its original reputation. Up on deck, the Bayfield 32 feels more substantial than its actual hull length might suggest. The raised bulwarks provide a welcome sense of security, especially when moving forward in rough conditions. The deck sides are not enormous, but they're teak handrails along the cabin top and relatively protected path forward to the bow. The bowsprit's one of the boat's defining features, of course. It gives the Bayfield that traditional profile, provides a serious anchoring platform, and moves the forestay farther forward. On many boats, the ground tackle arrangement looks more like something you'd expect on a much larger offshore cruiser. But the bowsprit is one of the most important areas to inspect before buying one of these things. The wooden structure beneath the platform is not merely decorative, it's part of the support system for the forestay and the bobstay. Any sign of rot or cracked delaminations, compressions, loose hardware, or poorly executed repairs should be investigated carefully. A weathered piece of exterior trim can wait, a weakened structural bowsprit cannot. Moving aft, the cockpit is designed for security more than entertaining a crowd. It's comfortable for a cruising couple and can accommodate 4 adults without becoming unreasonable. The coamings provide decent support when the boat heels, and there are useful lockers for cruising gear. The boat's cutter rig is another major part of its cruising appeal. Dividing the headsail area between a forward sail and an inner staysail gives the crew several combinations for different conditions. It also means the individual sails can remain manageable for a couple or a single-handed sailor. This is not a boat that requires a racing crew to keep it under control. It was designed to be shortened down, balanced, and sailed steadily. Below deck, the Bayfield 32 uses its beam and freeboard pretty effectively. It won't feel like a modern 32-footer with an enormous aft cabin and a wide stern, but for a design introduced in 1973, it provides an impressive amount of usable cruising space. The galley is immediately in the companionway, where you can be used at sea without sending the cook wandering through the cabin. Most boats have a 2-burner stove with an oven, a sink, and a top-loading icebox with a reasonable amount of storage. Opposite the galley is a nav desk and quarter berth. The main saloon has facing settees that can serve as proper sea berths with lee cloths installed. The seat backs can be raised to create wider sleeping surfaces, and the folding table allows the cabin to remain open when it's not being used for meals. Further forward is an enclosed head along with additional storage, followed by a generous V-berth. The interior of these boats is warm and traditional, with plenty of teak and none of the pale modern surfaces common aboard newer production boats. That appearance is a major part of the Bayfield's charm, although every piece of wood also represents something that may eventually need refinishing. The boat's best suited for a couple. A small family could certainly cruise aboard one, and 4 adults could manage a weekend, but we should remember that the actual hull is closer to 30 feet rather than 32. The bowsprit adds character and overall length, but it doesn't add 2 feet to the cabin. Engine installs vary widely too over the production years. Early boats could have unusual hydraulic drive systems, while others were fitted with small Mercedes or Yanmar diesels. Many have since been repowered too. On any boat of this age, the current engine and the quality of the install matter far more than what appeared in the original brochure. Engine access is relatively tight too, which is hardly unusual for a 1970s cruising boat of this size. Buyers should inspect the engine mounts, exhaust, fuel system, shaft, propeller, and surrounding structure carefully. Owners also report that the 32 can be a handful in reverse. Its long keel wants to keep the boat moving in a straight line, while prop walk can begin pushing the stern before the rudder has enough water flow across it to provide control. One pair of owners like their Bayfield enough to install a bow thruster in their 32-footer. That may sound excessive until you've tried backing a full keel boat out of a tight slip in a crosswind. Once the sails are up, however, the long keel becomes the advantage. The boat tracks well, has a comfortable motion, and generally feels steady rather than nervous. Light air performance is not its strength, of course. With its displacement, short waterline, and substantial hull, the Bayfield needs some wind before it begins moving with purpose. It's also not a point as high as every modern fin keel cruiser. The correct approach is usually to ease the sheet slightly, keep the boat moving, and accept that the shortest line on the chart may not be the fastest line through the water for you. Reaching and sailing off the wind are much more natural territory. Reviewers and owners report describing a dry, balanced boat that can maintain respectable cruising speeds once the breeze arrives. In stronger conditions, the staysail and a reefed main provide a manageable combination without requiring the crew to wrestle with enormous sails. And that brings us to the Atlantic crossing. In 1976, sailor Bob Lush used a Bayfield 32 named Freedom Joe for his qualifying passage before the Observer single-handed transatlantic race. He sailed alone from Miami to England, covering approximately 4,400 miles nonstop in 33 days. The off-the-wind passage suited the Bayfield very well. Lush reported covering more than 1,000 miles a week for 3 consecutive weeks and praised the boat's comfort, carrying capacity, and downwind performance. The race itself went in the opposite direction, from England toward Newport, Rhode Island. Lush initially chose a difficult northern route that required the boat to fight to windward through rough North Atlantic conditions. That exposed the boat's weakness and a structural problem around that extended bowsprit. The backing structure for the bobstay fitting began to compress. The forestay sagged and water entered through the loosened fasteners. Lush eventually bore away and took a longer southerly route. That story gives us far more useful assessment than simply attaching words like blue water proven to the advertisement. The Bayfield 32 successfully completed a long, single-handed Atlantic passage and performed extremely well in the conditions it was designed for. But when it was pushed hard to windward as a racing boat, it struggled, and part of the bowsprit support structure began to fail. The boat proved itself to be a capable cruiser. It didn't magically become a racing yacht. For anyone considering buying one today, the survey should concentrate on that bowsprit and bobstay structure, moisture in the balsa-cored deck and chainplates, standing rigging, mast leaks, the tanks, the engine install, and the condition of the electrical. Bayfield also made numerous changes through that production run. The port lights, hatches, hardware, engines, and interior details can vary a lot from boat to boat. Buying the newest year is less important than buying the boat that has been maintained and upgraded properly. And speaking of maintained and upgraded properly, have you been to our website? Since 1974, Practical Sailor's independent testing has taken the guesswork out of boat and gear buying. We've got endless articles on how to take care of your boat, so if you own one, you should definitely check it out and sign up. And while you're here, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out, but also it lets YouTube know that you like sailboat videos, so it'll show you more of them. How cool is that? And hit subscribe so I can see you again next time.